Pretty Little Liars, the TV show, sometimes deals with disturbing and problematic topics. We provide a list of content warnings in the episode description.
Welcome to Dead Ends. I'm Emily.
I'm Brenton.
And we have 2 new episodes of Pretty Little Liars for you. Well, we didn't write them, but we did watch them. And now we will talk about them.
Thank God I didn't write these. I'd be very angry at myself.
Remember the time.
Bad writing's bad writing.
How dare you?
I've brought my grievances to this podcast episode.
I almost choked when
as I'm stumbling over words.
Stumbled over your words.
It's been a rough week for us. We're recording it a little bit later than we usually do.
We're tired.
Nah.
We're ill prepared. I mean, we watched we watched and took notes, but like,
yeah, you know what? But we're gonna get through it, and we're gonna do great.
It's gonna be weird. You're welcome. Or it's gonna be. What if it's not weird? What if I gave that and then it's like dull?
Yeah, it's just right down the middle.
It's just mediocre.
Exactly.
Welcome to the mediocre podcast.
Look forward to our C+ podcast. We've got an episode for you. Subscribe, like.
But on the real, please do that.
Yeah. But one thing I will say up top, and we'll get into it later. You know, we mentioned a lot, like last season, of just being like, yeah, if only Emily could be involved in the plot more. She's kind of dead end. Monkey paw seriously curled on that one.
Yep. Emily never has nice plot. If it's focusing on Emily, it's not a good time.
It's brutal. It's bad. All right, but should I go ahead and get started with the recap?
Get started with season 2, episode 9.
Yeah. Picture this. Open on Fitz and Aria making out in his apartment. Fitz, and they're in his bed. Fitz rolls over, because I put apartment, I'm like, wait a minute, we got to set the scene. And Fitz rolls over, turns off the alarm clock, but when he turns back, it's Jason. Jason then asks, where were we? And Aria wakes up to her alarm in her bed alone.
No adult men in her bed.
Right? Oh boy. I was like, oh, okay, we're just fully going into this.
Well, at least with her in the dream, like it would be very normal for a teenager to have that kind of dream.
Yeah. Yeah. The writers know what they're doing.
No, it's a problem, but I'm just, when you're like, okay, well, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Right, exactly. I thought we were going full, but full Riverdale.
Full Riverdale.
It's just like, oh, here's like, the sex scene for you.
Just starting with it.
Yep, we know what you want. Not me.
Riverdale, we know what you want.
Good God.
What's Pretty Little Liars then?
Yeah, I feel like Pretty Little Liars in a lot of ways is a lot more restrained.
Yes, it was a lot more conservative.
Yes.
Which I think we all were as a society a little bit less sexy on the TV.
I mean, so we also have to keep in mind this is on ABC Family, so I'm assuming
Freeform.
That plays into that. Yeah, because there was like definitely, sexy.
Seventh Heaven was on that show, on that channel. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't get a lot of sexy on there.
But like on like CW and stuff, there was sexy things happening. So
there were sexy things over on the CW.
Watch your kids.
What were you watching on the CW?
CW late night.
Just like One Tree Hill.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because this would have been parallel with like Vampire Diaries, right?
Yes, I think we I don't know if we established that on mic, but and there's also HBO and Showtime and other stuff, but I guess those don't quite count because paid channels. But even on basic cable, I guess doesn't whatever. Cable. Moving on. Back to the plot summary. Quick, back on the road. Hannah and Emily turn in candy stripe, or turn in. They're wearing candy stripe uniforms, and outside at the hospital, they're guarding the door for Spencer at the morgue as they try and act normal as the doctors walk by. Hannah opens the morgue door and is just like, Spencer, it's time. You gotta go. I'm a bummer we didn't get to see this like heist like happen beforehand. Like going in, sneaking in, getting the candy striper uniforms, getting set up. Oh well.
They got to cut things for time, baby.
Exactly. We're not here for your money. We're here for the bank's money. Your money is insured. Spencer comes out and is like, I didn't find the missing page. I didn't find page 5. And Emily guesses that someone must have gotten there before them. Spencer then says, like, maybe Jason? Hannah's like, Hannah, ever the rational one. It's like, the only thing we know about him is that he's a creep. And Spencer says, not true. What about the hockey stick? And the elevator doors open as they all go silent because they see it's Jenna, and she's being led by a doctor. And Jenna mentions she can't wait to get her bandages off after the procedure, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to see the ocean again.
So sad.
It's really sweet. Again, Jenna has every right to be aggrieved.
I'd be pissed if I was Jenna.
Totally, completely. Emily and Hannah are then at Hannah's house as Emily is throwing out a bunch of their toiletries because of the HGH potential for other HGH contamination. Ashley then walks in and tells Hannah that her dad had called and he wants her to call him before she goes to school. Ashley walks away and Emily asks Hannah if she's talked to her dad. Hannah says no. Hannah's like, oh, we should like go have breakfast right now. And Emily's like, I'm not hungry. And she talks about feeling super uneasy with A controlling them. Hannah says, you need to eat and we can't live in fear all the time. You just have to put it out of your mind. Hannah leaves and Emily then receives a text with her medical records that says, remember, I own you. I didn't write it down if it was here like later, but the medical records literally say like Emily Fields and then like HGH. Like
huge letters.
Yeah. Emily shows Aria the text at school, and Emily and Aria discuss like the implications over this. Emily then asks why Mike broke into her garage, and Aria's like, I have no idea. He won't talk to me, and I have no idea what's going on with him. They then see Jason walking through the hall, and Jason waves at Aria. Emily's like, what is he doing here? Aria's like, well, he's counseling like at-risk youths. And Emily's like, well, why is he waving at you? And Aria's like, well, he was over for dinner. Emily's like, well, did something happen at said dinner? And Aria's like, no. And Emily's like, well, why are you blushing then? And Aria's like, well, like I may have had a dream about him and like we may have been kissing. And Emily's like, how could you? And Aria says, hey, Jason is no more dangerous than we thought Toby was. And Emily's like, that's not true. He's connected to a murder weapon. Emily asks, like, why are you dreaming of Jason when you have Ezra? I know, like, you like to fix things, but this is too far. Aria's like, well, maybe I don't have Ezra. It's been weird since he went to Hollis. And Emily makes Aria promise that she'll stay away from Jason. Emily, a little rough here. Ashley calls Hannah to tell her like her dad called and like that he needs Hannah to call Isabel for about a bridesmaid dress. Hannah says, "No way, I'm doing that."
By the way, this wedding is 6 weeks away.
Yeah.
In what world?
You gotta get the dress. You gotta get it fit. You gotta not fitted.
Altered.
Thank you. There's a lot going on here. Ashley says, it's a nice gesture. You should call him back. Hannah says, fine, whatever, and hangs up on the phone. They're then at the lunch table at school, and Spencer tells all the friends at the table about Jenna potentially getting surgery to see if they can fix her cornea so that she can see again. She had talked to Toby, and Toby mentioned that she's getting tests to see if it's viable. Hannah's like, oh, we're off the hook then if she gets her vision back. Like, no worries. And Spencer's like, no way. She could still come after us. And then it's like, makes a case like, just because you like break someone's legs with a bat, like doesn't mean you didn't commit assault. Like something like that.
Like, and their legs get better doesn't mean you didn't break their legs.
There you go. Aria says that maybe if she gets her vision back, maybe the revenge will all fall away. And Spencer's like, it's only going to get worse. Hannah mentions, yeah, imagine if she has all 5 senses back. She'll then have the Infinity Stones and be able to control the universe.
She really is the most terrifying.
It's really fun. But like also at the same time, like, is she? They've like stepped to her every time. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Spencer arrives at the DeLaurentis' house and hears a tree fall. She walks up and sees Jason working with another person to clear back brush around from his shed. There's a person who's about to step in there. Jason's like, no, you can't go in there. Like, don't do that. Then checks the lock and then hides the key on top of the door, which Spencer sees from afar.
Because also it's a horrible hiding spot.
It's super easy. The key's under the mat. Samara brings Emily a bunch of sweets, and they kiss as Ashley comes home and then like meets Samara. It's like this kind of like awkward thing of like, oh, sorry to interrupt you, and like, well, it's good to finally meet you. Ashley pulls it off quite nicely. Samara mentions that their plans are going to be canceled because Quinn's mom got sick, so we can't go all over there, Emily. And Emily's like, oh, it's okay. We can try to do something another time. Ashley's like, hey, why don't you all come over here? Like, you'll have the house to yourselves. Like, I'll be doing this and Hannah'll be out. They say thank you, and Samara leaves. Emily is then like, you don't have to do that. And Ashley says, it's your house. I want you to feel comfortable as yourself. But the same rules apply, though. No girls in your room. Like,
no girlfriends.
Girlfriends in your room. And then stumbles on asking, like, how will I tell if they're, like, romantic or not? And they have a nice laugh. Aria visits Fitz at his office. All for pretense of hooking up with him. Asks if it's hot in here and then takes off her jacket. She says she wants some alone time. Pushes a chair in front of the door to lock it. They make out as Fitz keeps trying to pull away, being like, oh, I've got an excuse. I got a class coming up. I don't know. This is a good idea. But eventually acquiesces, and they continue. Spencer talks on the phone with Hannah about the Jason shed thing. Hannah then sees Caleb talking to the man from the car. And so she walks up to ask about it, from the car that was tailing him. From the car.
Just a car.
This is the danger of reading from my notes sometimes. And she walks up to ask Caleb about it. Caleb's like, hey, he's not actually like a police officer following me. He's a PI who's hired to find him. And Hannah's like, from who? And it's like, it was from my birth mom. Emily, I'm happy for Caleb, but we'll get to it. Emily and Samara and Samara's friends all play poker at the house. Samara tells Emily, like, as they like kind of like are off to the side, it's like, hey, they all love you. And we get a POV shot from outside the house of someone watching them. Emily then gets a text from A. If Zoe leaves without your digits, your lab results go viral. Spencer talks to Mrs. Hastings about the hockey stick and her dad burning it. Mrs. Hastings like, well, I'm sure he had a good reason for doing it. He was probably scared. Spencer's like, but what? Like, what do you mean? And asks like what her dad would be actually scared of, and says, I don't know, like if I have found, and then Mrs. Hastings says, I don't know, if I had found it, I would have burned it too. We probably would have assumed that it was Ian trying to frame you. Spencer says, what if it wasn't Ian? Mrs. Hastings says, we know it was him. He confessed. Spencer asks why her dad is so upset about Jason being back, and Mrs. Hastings says the DeLaurentis family is not to be trusted, Jason included. We're back to bad parent, Mrs. Hastings. Aria talks to Emily on the phone, and Emily mentions that A was probably outside watching them and is like, hey, what the hell am I supposed to do in this situation? Aria's like, well, you're playing poker, so bluff. Emily says, it's not your relationship being kicked around, and Aria's like, well, I've had my fair share. And Emily's like, I'm sorry, I forgot you were dating our teacher, and A was holding that over you. Aria asks how Emily's like stomach is doing, and Emily dodges the question. They finish their conversation as Fitz arrives back in his office to Aria being there, and he's like, hey, I didn't know you're still sticking around. Aria then shows off her feast of vending machine food that she procured for them. Fitz asks, hey, is something else like going on here? Aria says, like, I don't know what you're talking about. Fitz is like, well, why are you just like, so suddenly romantic today? And Aria's like, well, I'm just happy.
Also, like, sir, like, this doesn't seem super out of character for Aria.
No, like, the person that would be like, well, I'm going to fix this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It really tells you something. Samara
Does it tell you something?
Nah,
Does it tell you something?
Samara and friends all leave. Emily gets a text from A that says TikTok. Emily then catches Zoe and awkwardly is just like, oh, you forgot something. And it's like, what? It's just like my number, and hands her like a card, I'm assuming business card. Emily, high schooler. Another one of
Swimmer.
Yeah. Quinn then sees Emily and gives her a death glare. Aria wakes up at Fitz's apartment, gets up and looks in the mirror, but then Jason approaches her from behind and says, you can't stop thinking about me, can you? And she wakes up once again. Hannah and Caleb look at his birth mom and her family on a website. Caleb said...
It's like the Montecito newspaper or something.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, she looks so happy. And Hannah's like, well, looks can be deceiving. Caleb says, well, she must be rich now that she's living in Montecito. Hannah asks if he's going to call her. And Caleb's like, no. And starts like kind of like making excuses. Like, I got to go get pizza. Like, do you want pizza? I'm going to go get pizza. And then leaves. Emily talks to Aria about giving Zoe her number. And then Emily also says that Samara has called twice, but she's too scared to call her back. Aria says, like, you can call her back right now and get this fixed. You have to deal with this. Aria then mentions her dreams of Jason again. And Emily says, well, when people show up in your dreams, it's because you want something from them. Aria says, I have Fitz. I don't want Jason.
I mean, I don't think that's true based
Not
on
at
the
all.
dreams I have.
Emily is not the person you should be taking advice from.
No.
But I do also understand that Emily is the person that'd be giving you unsolicited bad advice.
Yes.
Ella and Byron are at home. Ella talks on the phone with the school guidance counselor about Mike potentially staying home more. Byron is then mad. He's like, hasn't he already taken the day off? He needs to get back to school. Ella's like, don't go storm up there and like punishing him. Like, this isn't going to help. Byron says, we have to get him back to school. Ella says, I don't think he's been there even when he was there. I've spoke to a few of his teachers and he's like completely checked out. And Byron says, it's our job to get him checked back in. We then see Mike is lying in his bed, staring at a perpetual motion machine. Byron knocks on the door, but it's locked. Mike lets him in and then immediately gets back in bed. Byron's like, are you sick? And Mike doesn't respond. Byron then walks around the bed and tells him, you need to come downstairs. Your mom and I need to talk to you about everything. Mike then just keeps repeating to like, turn off the light. Just please turn off the light. Byron says, then more softly says, I would like you to come down for dinner. And Mike only responds to turn off the light. Byron then leaves and tells him to keep his door unlocked. And Mike doesn't respond.
I liked your Byron impression.
Thank you very much.
You should be reading audiobooks.
Turn
on the light.
Turn on the light, Byron said. Samara yells at Emily about giving her number to Zoe at Ashley's house. Samara says, Zoe didn't even tell me, Quinn did. Emily then evades and is like, well, I was just trying to connect with your friends. Isn't that what you want me to do? And Samara says, until you give me a real answer, like, we can't like see each other, and walks out. Aria walks downstairs to Jason, but in real life this time, who says that Byron let him in. Jason says he came over to give her a card for a youth center counselor that might help with Mike. Aria asks, like, what Jason told the counselor about Mike. Like, you didn't tell him anything, did you? And Jason's like, not much, but I told him you were worried about him. He reaches out and touches her shoulder, and Aria freaks out, and then it's just like, I gotta do school stuff. You need to leave. And he's like, it's the weekend. And he's like, well, I've got a test tomorrow and all these things, and leads him out and shuts the door on him. But, like, it's a door that has a, like, window pane in it, so he can see through the window pane that she sets her books down and then leaves.
Yeah, it's like their back door, I think, or something.
Mm-hmm. Jason, the king of you shut the door in my face, and I'm going to stay here for a little bit.
He just likes to stand outside of the Montgomery's house.
Really? Yeah, I was going to say, it's not everybody's house. Hannah walks up to Caleb, who's sitting alone on a swing set, and is just like, hey, what happened to the pizza?
Me.
Yes, that is 100%.
I'm like, wow, he's been gone for a long time. I haven't had my pizza yet.
He said he was going to get pizza.
Where's
He seemed
the
upset,
pizza?
but like, where's the pizza?
You can be upset and eat pizza.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. Caleb says his mom had 2 other sons while he was in foster home. Why didn't she come get him sooner? Hannah says maybe she wants to make it up to you now, and Caleb says she can't. Hannah's in like, you should let her in. Like, so like he knows like what happened and he can finally stop guessing. Hannah says the worst that can happen is you call her and then you just never speak to her again after that. Emily is over at Spencer's, and Spencer tries to reassure Emily about her relationship with Samara. Spencer tries to continually, like, her mom is like packing up her things, and Spencer keeps going like, aren't you leaving? Shouldn't you be leaving now? Like,
Goodbye,
trying
Mom.
to like push her out the door, and Mrs. Hastings just like, I don't know what, like, why are you pushing me out the door so much? Where is like Melissa's pea coat? I can't find it. I feel like this is going to be Chekhov's pea coat, but it doesn't come back up. Maybe it will in a couple episodes. Mrs. Hastings like, where's Melissa's pea coat? I can't find it. And like, we're gonna bring it over to, she's staying at her condo in Philadelphia. Spencer then keeps pressing her mom. Mrs. Hastings gets suspicious, but then she finally leaves, and Spencer mobilizes Emily to go find out what the hell Jason is hiding. Yes, Emily, I know you're upset, but we have things to do.
Might I distract you with a little beanie?
Exactly. You know, Mike had one thing right.
Run from your problems. Run into someone else's house.
That's right. Byron sets the table as Ella comes home. He mentions that him and Mike didn't talk. Byron says, we shouldn't give him space. My parents gave Scott space. And look at what happened. Ella asks, why are we talking about Scott? Byron tells her about Mike rolled up in a blanket and sad, and says he saw his brother. He saw his brother there, and he thinks that something more is going on with Mike, and Ella reassures him that Mike is not his brother. We don't get this followed up on.
I don't know if we ever find out what happened to Scott.
Scott, I mean, we can you can extrapolate at least that like probably his like brother was depressed and might have committed suicide, but
we're not. There's no concrete information in Pretty Little Liars, honey.
Right, and it's about Mike, so it's tangential at best.
I cannot remember if this ever comes back up.
Yeah, interesting. Emily and Spencer go to break into what is it? I understand like what you're trying to like do with this like plot line, but like without any
wish
like
they would just say it.
Yeah, or just give us a resolution on it. That's where you get like the fault of like these long episode seasons where they like skip episodes before things like come back up. So you get like these kind of weird hanging things on like really difficult topics.
Yep, that they just don't do anything with.
Yeah,
but they could do something with.
Absolutely. And they're attempting to, but I don't know. Emily and Spencer go to break into Jason's shed.
Jason's
shed. Emily is skeptical, and Spencer's like, nope, we're going. Grabs the key, and they go in. Something falls in front of Spencer, and she sees that it's a roll of film. They pull back the curtain to see that it's a dark room for developing photos. And there's lots of up close photos of someone's face, and they figure out that it's all of Aria, and it looks like she's sleeping. Spencer finds then a box of surveillance equipment. Emily asks if he's been watching them the whole time, and then Spencer hears Jason arrive home, and one of them drops their flashlight as they run on their way out. And as they leave and lock things back up, Jason then goes into the shed and sees a picture on the ground and the flashlight. Hannah opens the door to Caleb, and he says that he took her advice and called his mom. Caleb says they had a really good conversation talking about, life in general and things. We didn't talk about like why I was up for adoption and things, but she apologized for taking so long.
Well, she left him. Didn't she leave him at his aunt's house?
Oh, right. The reasoning.
Yeah. Why she left.
Got it.
Right? Isn't that right? Wasn't that his original plot line?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, why she left him. I'd missed when I was like writing this. I'm like, oh, adoption. But no, you're totally right that it was like family member. She said his voice sounded just like his dad's. She wants to see him. And he's like, it makes more sense for me to go there. Hannah asks when. He says tonight. Hannah asks what it means for them then. Caleb says, we'll talk on the phone and I will be back. He says she's a very good reason for him to come back. Caleb and Hannah's like, well, let me drive you to the airport. And he's like, my mom arranged a car for me and it's waiting outside. Sets are expensive. They kiss. He then goes to leave, Hannah says, I love you. And he says, I love you too. They kiss again. Caleb leaves and Hannah cries.
So does Brenton.
It's so frustrating. It's just like, really? Like, this is what's happening with this? Like, you're just like putting it on fast forward and this is where we're going to leave off? Yeah, I'm not happy with Hannah's plot lines over these couple weeks. I'm like, this is so rushed. Like, literally, it's just like, well, nope, you don't get any closure, Hannah, because it's all taken care of. And it's all so sudden. Isn't that fun? And then Caleb's now just gone. We didn't know what to do with him, so he's gone for a few episodes.
We didn't want to pay him for the full season.
Right. I understand. Like, Toby disappears for multiple episodes because he's a guest star. You could do the same with Caleb. Aria walks home alone as Jason pulls up. He mentions that he had to buy a new padlock for his shed because someone broke in. Aria says, oh, it couldn't have been Mike. And Jason's like, I wouldn't go there. But I'm glad I found you, like, so we could talk. We then pan to Garrett and Jenna watching them. Garrett says, looks like they're friends. Jenna says, if they get together and he starts to remember that night, Garrett's like, he won't. Jenna then gets antsy about what's happening. And Garrett says nothing. Spencer and Emily try to call Aria and Hannah about the pictures. Neither of them are picking up. We then pan to Jason and Aria again. Jason is apologizing to Aria and saying, hey, if I stepped out of bounds, with handing the card for the counselor over, not grief counselor, youth counselor over. And Aria's like, it's okay. Jason's like, I care about your brother, but I also care about you and wanted to tell you in case you felt the same way. He then leans in and kisses her, and Aria pulls back and is like, I can't do this, and I'm not available. She then apologizes and leaves. Hannah sits by the phone, then decides to pick up and call her dad. She leaves a voicemail to ask where she should go for the fitting. Spencer and Emily then return back to Jason's shed, but Spencer can't find the key, but then Emily sees it's open. They go in and see everything's gone except the flashlight. We then cut to a different dark room as a gloved hand develops a photo. It develops into Spencer and Emily and Jason's dark room. The end. Former dark room.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Emily, why are you dream shaming Aria?
I know, it's the worst. Your friend just had a dream. And she's like, how could you? And it's so funny, where it's like the dreams have to mean something. You want something from them. Well, and while Emily is on the right track with this one, that's not true.
No. Well, and it could just be an innocent little crush.
Exactly. And not like things are going great.
Well, either way, you have a dream. You just have dreams.
Totally. Yeah. It don't matter.
I have dreams mostly about people who have already died. I only dream about old people and then weird people I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have very specific and vivid dreams.
I do. I have very strange dreams and very bright colored usually.
Yeah. And you can lucid dream a lot easier.
I usually know I'm dreaming. I haven't lately, but I used to usually know I was dreaming.
Yeah.
I don't intentionally try to do it because it freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like knowing I'm dreaming. It feels very isolating.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're just by yourself in your head and you're just stuck there.
Right. Oh, right. Because you can't wake yourself up.
I'm sure I could, but I'm not good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I get too freaked out. Anyway, will Jenna get her eyesight back?
This is something I probably should have seen coming. That she would get her eyesight back. Which I think is a mistake. In terms of writing, I think she will. If she does, then we can follow back up on it. But I think she probably will get her eyesight back. It's very funny, all of them being like, what if she has all 5 senses? Then we can't freeze in the hallway.
Your freeze response is no longer valid, friend.
Oh God, yeah. And then she can actually see when you're fine. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's a TBD there, but I would think that's probably gonna go through.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Why are the Hastings burning evidence as lawyers?
I know Mrs. Hastings also being like, yeah, I would have done the same. What?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, what does Peter do? Do we know?
He's like a businessman, maybe. Like a.
Right, okay. But I mean, at least her is just Jesus Christ. You should know better. But no, she does know better. Because that's the thing. Like, the Hastings are, as we talked about, they are so wealthy that we have found out of these past, few episodes, that they are like completely removed from the town. So because of their status as the wealthy people, of course they're gonna be like, well, what's good for the family?
Uh-huh.
The rules don't apply to us because we're the Hastings.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have burned evidence too if it had led back to you.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, it makes sense. For the Hastings.
Okay. Why didn't Emily just get everyone's number?
Yeah, there's so many other ways that Emily is freeze.
Absolutely. She's actually like a flight response, I feel. She's like a run.
Yes, totally. She has the worst ability to adapt in any situation.
Mm-hmm.
And like she definitely could have just asked for everybody's number. Like Aria being like, well, bluff. And it's just like, well, Emily's like, well, I'm absolutely incapable of doing that.
Or just like pretend you gave her your number. Be like, oh,
right.
You dropped this. It's your winnings, or whatever. Like,
well, that would have still been that one.
Like if she had dropped the money and you pretended to write on it.
But
you could play the long game for A. A doesn't know she got your number or not. A can't see the dollar.
Right, exactly.
Or can they?
Yeah. Yeah, how would A confirm this? I mean, A was watching.
Yes.
As much as we know. They're handing someone. But, like, there was no stipulation that, like, she couldn't have just been, and yours, and yours, and yours. Here, all friends. Like, I would like all your numbers, which ostensibly is, like, she was having a good time with friends, so that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Emily, no, incapable.
Panic.
Exactly. Just being targeted this season. To greater lengths than anybody else.
Yes.
And yeah. But in terms of yeah. Just can't. Incapable.
I was gonna originally ask about the photos Jason has, but since we get more in the next episode, I'm gonna save that for later.
Oh, okay.
Because like part of it will be unveiled then.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So why does Caleb's mom live in Montecito?
She's rich now.
How?
Baby. I'm assuming she married in.
I lived in Santa Barbara with you, and it was expensive.
Yes. I'm assuming this man that she's married to is very wealthy. That's what I'm assuming happened.
Well, there you go. I hope he buys Caleb something nice.
Yeah, this sucks. I think Caleb this season. Well, I mean, I think it sucks because I guess it's like mercifully ending like a really boring plot line between the two of them in a way that luckily we didn't have to steer into more of like, but Caleb, you're messing with illegal things. And it's just been such plate spinning with them to then like suddenly end with like, my mom wants me to come and I'm leaving without like any of that being earned. It's just like really saccharine.
Yeah, like I'm
cheesy.
Immediately gonna pack up and go.
Right. And then it's just like this, like, we're fast forwarding to the part where it is this like thing that's pulling them apart and they have to be together. Of like, I love you. That should be a bigger moment. And it's flat. It's all wrong because they sped rush to ship Caleb off. Because I can only assume that they're like, well, we're running into a wall and we have no idea what to do with Caleb at the moment. So
let's send him to Montecito.
Exactly. We got to get him out of here for a little while. I mean, Caleb's going to come back. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that he's coming back.
You answered my next question.
Is Caleb coming back?
Yeah, I was like, is Caleb coming back?
I have no doubt in my mind. Unless, like, this actor got another gig, which I don't think so. But, I think they hit a dead end. And they didn't know what to do with Caleb. And Caleb, in all honesty, was written really poorly and boring this season. Like, ugh. And then is now stranded Hannah in these like dull plot lines, which when she is in other places, it's just like, yeah, Hannah's being punchy, is being good.
Hannah's being Hannah.
Right, exactly. Like earlier where it's just like, all we know about Jason is that he's a weirdo. It's just like, yes, thank you. The like rational one.
One piece of information. Jason, weirdo.
Weirdo, right?
Or a creep.
Creep. And then she gets those fun moments of like, well, we're off the hook now. But in her own storyline, it's just like, ugh. So I guess like, bye, Caleb. You were a weight.
You're a dead weight at the moment.
Yeah, or at least when the two of you are together, which is a bummer.
Garrett and Jenna patrol.
Yeah,
Party
best
time?
part.
Yeah, you like that?
Oh yes, I love it.
Did they see the kiss? They left before the kiss.
Between
Aria and Jason.
Oh no, I don't think that they didn't. We don't see them pull away, right?
I thought they said they needed to leave, but I don't know if we like see it.
Oh, I thought they saw the kiss.
We'll have to find out.
Is it just getting more evidence on them, or at least following around, and also that they're connected, at least cementing more in my head of like connected to the night that Jason doesn't forget.
The night you'll never forget. Too bad he can't remember.
The night he doesn't remember, and that they're like connected to that. So at least panning out to that theory I established last time, that seems a little more plausible.
I like it. What did you think of the Jason Aria kiss? The real one, not the dream.
Oh, not the dream one. I mean, he just kind of went in. He's like, I was hoping you were feeling the same way, but wait, don't answer. I'm gonna kiss you first. It's like, I don't know. It's
you know
hard.
what I love about you, honey?
Yeah.
You hesitate. You give a girl the chance to run.
You give her the chance when it's just like, I was hoping you'd feel the same way. It doesn't seem like an invitation, but like, it's hard to feel happy. I like Jason more, but I still don't. I like Jason a lot, other than his like interest in Aria. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't really want this. I don't know. I don't know what a good avenue for Aria is at the moment. Well, there's what about it? Yeah, exactly. What about the boys at your school? Like, no. Oh no.
This girl has no options.
No prospects. She's a burden on her family.
No, she's got so many prospects. The issue is
that is true. She's not the burden on her family.
No.
Starts with a M, ends with an Ike.
Speaking of him, do you think we'll get a resolution on his plot?
I think it's going to be really pat and quick.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be like a deep thing of like why he's actually.
If this is like an actual mental health kind of conversation,
right? I don't
versus just like Mike's acting out.
Right. I don't exactly. I think he's gonna have a reason for it. It's gonna be somehow connected into the wider plot. But I don't think we're gonna get that conversation of like Mike's depressed and like this is a scary thing for parents to deal with. And also it's really isolating for the kid. I don't think we're gonna get that. I think it's gonna have a reason, and then Mike's gonna be like, "Bing bong, back, all cured." That I don't, because he's too inessential. To the plot for that. Yeah, and then we get Byron trying to strong arm into like feeling better.
Yeah. And then last but not least, is it A or is it Jason developing the photos at the end, or both? Is Jason A?
Oh, no, not Jason. Oh, wait. If you had asked me before the podcast, I would have said A. But like now I'm thinking it's like Jason. And I'm thinking it's more innocent of just like, okay, these motherfuckers went into my dark room. Now I have you. Because obviously he's like playing with them by leaving the flashlight. Like, I know you got in here. Also, like, what was the period of time to like dismantle that entire dark room? That's a lot. And that's really fast.
Well, those are like chemicals. Like, that's not like a...
No, multiple pieces of equipment, tables. Got Toby. Hey, Toby, got a job for you.
Don't tell your girlfriend.
Exactly. So I think it's probably Jason of just being like, I gotcha.
Okay.
And I don't think he's A.
You don't think Jason's A?
No. Black hoodie.
Okay. All right. Well, those are my questions for you in this episode. Do you have anything else you wanted to complain about? Because it wasn't a great one.
No, yeah.
It's one of the ones that's just like we had to fill in a gap in the season.
Right. And it's Aria relationship time.
And at least the next one we get ponies.
Yeah. That one seems even more of a filler.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, this is absolutely disconnected to everything else in terms of Hannah's plotline in that.
Hannah, so what happened in this season, I feel, is all of a sudden they decided the girls needed to have slightly more independent plot lines. And I don't know how they decided this, or if they decided this, or if it was subconscious or what, but the Kate plotline is by far one of my least favorites. I could care less about Kate.
Yeah.
I forget about Kate every time Kate happens. It's almost like...
Quit trying to make Kate happen.
Who is it that Hannah dates at the beginning of the show?
Sean.
Basically, if you're not Caleb or one of the main girls and you have anything to do with Hannah, absolutely no memories.
What about Mona, though?
Oh, of course, Mona.
Yeah. I guess we can count her as a main.
As like a main. She's around.
Right.
As
Yeah.
much as the boyfriends, you know?
Yeah. We can jump into Kate on the next one.
Like, I can tell you, like, out of the people that are Aria's love interests, I could probably list most of them.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I can't remember Sean from, like, a day-to-day basis.
Uh-huh. And I think at least in the next episode, in terms of Aria's plotline stuff, it's at least more interesting, even if I'm not, it's more interesting.
It at least plays into like the big picture plot too.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, this is just kind of like we've got some side stuff and we're gonna develop some intrigue. Pictures.
Oh, he's punny.
Yeah. But it seems more, other than the Garrett and Jenna thing, everything's kind of like not inconsequential for Aria, but also that's not my favorite plotline. Episode 32, Touched by an Angel.
I just wanted to start singing that horrible song, the Lips of an Angel song.
That also went through my head.
I'm keeping it to myself, though. You're all welcome. You don't want to hear my cover. It's not good.
I'm sure it'd be beautiful.
You've heard it.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It's at a very low register.
Well, I mean, the song is.
But I'm usually not.
All right. Emily sits at the lunch table with Aria. Emily says, I need to talk to you about Jason. And Aria says, me too. Aria says, he kissed me. And Emily says, hold on. Wait a minute. He had creepy photos of you like sleeping. Aria's then like, well, now I'm officially terrified. Spencer shows up at the table and just immediately jumps in. It's like, I never fell for his act pretending to help teens and Mike. Aria says, well, he did actually help Mike. Emily says that he did that to get close to you and take pictures of you and kiss you. And then Aria leaves mad and confused. Spencer's like, hey, did you know about like those two getting close together? And Emily's like, yes. And Spencer's like, well, it's okay. Sometimes you have to hurt someone to help them. Spencer mentions, well, I can't stay late for the college fair because Toby's going to help me move Ian's stuff out before Melissa comes home. Emily then sits at the table alone and opens up her alphabet. I forgot about this. Her alphabet cereal box. She then sees that they're all A's. Inside the box is a capsule with a note that says, the weakest link is the easiest to break. Snapping yet? A's just having fun now. Hannah.
Who isn't, really?
Exactly. Hannah comes downstairs and Ashley asks, hey, where's Emily? Hannah's like, Emily got up early to go to swim practice. Ashley's like, wait, she can swim? Like, she can go back like to swimming? And Emily's like, no, she's just like really sadly.
Hannah's like, no. Sorry,
Hannah,
I was like, continuity.
I appreciate it. Hannah's then like, no, she just like sits next to the pool hoping someone will push her in. Ashley offers to give Emily a gift card to a massage because that might be nice for her. And Hannah then reluctantly agrees and to not take it for herself. Ashley asks how the conversation with her dad went, and Hannah says like it's whatever. Ashley then notices a colorful envelope in the mail and asks if she can open it. It's a note from Tom about how meaningful it is, or it's from Isabel, right? About how meaningful it is for Hannah to be a part of the wedding ceremony. Ashley's like, this is a big deal. And Hannah tries to play it down. Ashley then says, I know you're trying to protect my feelings, but this is a big deal. You should treat this as a good thing. And as if, I had found someone. Hannah then goes, okay, what about Hannah's feelings on her dad?
Yeah, he still left her twice.
I know. Like, no, you should do this. You're just protecting my feelings. Stop pushing your daughter to be involved with the man who left you.
Mm-hmm.
Who left you both. Hannah sees Jason at school, and then directly, it's very funny. Jason at school, it's just like he's wearing like these preppy sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, this couldn't be the man who's putting up a fence in his front yard. Well, actually, that got shut down.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's not allowed to do that.
Right,
The Hastings shut it down.
It's just so funny, like the difference between like Jason now, where it's just like all soft edges, and like our first introduction to Jason, where he's just like, get out of my yard, and like throwing something at a dog.
Does it remind you of someone else?
His name is Toby. But Toby, it's just like he's a loner. Toby doesn't throw things at animals. It's just like, what a
Well,
weird...
Jason didn't either. He definitely missed.
Right. But Toby's just like, you can already tell from the jump, it's just like, this guy's misunderstood. Where like Jason is just like, what if he's dangerous? Toby also like immediately jumps into saving Emily from sexual assault, which we'll wrap back around to. Boy. Jason then tells Aria, hey, your friends broke into my shed. Aria says, whatever, it doesn't matter. Jason then says, this town never changes. All these people like sneaking around and all this. And Aria's like, why did you take those pictures? Jason then says, I didn't, Allie did. I found a roll of film and I developed it. Aria says, oh, well, okay then. Well, what about the equipment that was missing? From the shed, like they went back there and it was gone. Jason says, I moved it back into the house because it's really expensive, and I waited until I had another padlock. He says that he was framing the photos as a gift for Aria.
Please don't ever gift me photos of myself sleeping.
That you didn't know were taken?
Also, like, what faces is she pulling while sleeping? Because, like, I don't look very delicate, I don't think. You throw yourself around a lot. They'd have to be videos.
Yeah, that's a weird gift.
You've never looked over at me sleeping and been like, I should take a photograph.
You do look serene.
Do I?
Mm-hmm.
Do I look peaceful?
You do.
Huh.
Yeah. And then when I go like, hey, like, do you want to go take Herman out?
I wake up as if I have been physically assaulted.
Yeah. You look very angry.
You scared me that one time. I thought you hit me.
I like softly like touched her back to like wake her up, be like, hey, I'm gonna go take Herman out. Yeah. I'm like, I'm taking Herman out. It's like, okay, and then rolls over.
I'm not a morning person.
It was before 7, so Aria's like, well, this all looks really bad, and Jason says, yeah, I can see that, and then leaves. They separate, and we see that Jenna is sitting down the hall behind some tempered glass. You know, those fixtures that are at the school. Ella is at school and sees Dr. Sullivan walking the halls, and is like, hey, like, good to see you. And it's like, hey, I'm here to see the principal. Ella then asks, like, hey, I want to talk to you about, like, Mike, my son, and mentions, like, all his behaviors recently, and he's, like, not talking. And it's like, I thought it'd be helpful if he talked to you. Dr. Sullivan, good therapist. And then it's like, I would never recommend that siblings like see the same therapist, but I can like recommend someone for you. Fitz is then at the high school with a box of items. I thought he wasn't allowed within 10 feet.
Only 10 feet?
Right. 10 feet. That seems 10 yards, 20 yards. Fitz is at the high school with a box of items. Aria sees him from across the way, smiles, and goes to approach him when suddenly we see Jackie come up, and they start working together because they're setting up for the college fair. Aria then stares down the hall, angry. Hannah approaches Emily with the gift certificate. Emily's like, I don't want to, but Hannah's like, you need to use it. You need to go use this. Hannah's then like, I gotta go to the dress feeding, and then and like leaves. Sorry.
Dress feeding?
Feeding. Yeah.
You feed the dress?
Yeah, I was imagining the dress in a pond, and you're like putting the little.
Oh, we put a little food in?
Uh-huh. Or, it's like in a dirt lot and you get to turn the crank, you get a little food. And Emily sees the swim team and starts to get upset. She then has a hard time opening her locker, and when she does, things like dramatically fall out. And Dr. Sullivan walks down the hall and approaches her and helps her gather her things. And it's like, hey, is everything okay? Emily's like, no. Dr. Sullivan is just like, well, can I help? Like, I can definitely help. And she says, just because Emily stopped being her patient doesn't mean she stopped caring about her. Emily then says, there are things I haven't told you, and I need to. Dr. Sullivan's like, well, why don't you come to my office after school? And Emily agrees. I didn't know that they had like all stopped. There's no confirmation of that until this episode. There's like, well, they're all cured.
Mm-hmm. Well, because separating them, there's nothing wrong with them.
Right, exactly. No grief.
Well, because they were sent there not for grief, but really because they all thought they were lying about Ian.
Right. So it's like, oh, okay, it's all good.
Yeah.
Don't need to talk about your dead friend. Well, Hannah's already cured because she had her realization. Everybody else,
we don't know,
spinning their wheels.
Well, we don't know. We've never seen Spencer's therapy session.
Right.
We can imagine it.
Why are you asking me questions? That's a weird question.
Write your own fan fiction in the comments.
Emily was combative.
Spencer was angry.
Or that's what I meant. Spencer was combative. My bad. I'm looking at my notes. Toby is with Spencer and they're boxing up Ian's things. And Toby's like, it's weird boxing up a dead man's things. Spencer says, well, this is my favorite memory of him. Toby then finds Ian's old yearbook and they start looking through it together. And they see that he was under his like list of clubs. He was a member of a club called NAT, but they hadn't heard of this. And they look through and it's like, it's not in the index of clubs. They then find a signature from Jason in the back that says NAT forever. And they go to see Jason has the same club listing. Spencer's like, wait, let me check one more thing. They page over to Garrett, who was also part of that club. Also, man, all these boys that graduated the same year,
it's a real winning class.
Real problem. But it's time for the college fair. Aria looks around bummed and sees Fitz and Jackie working the booth together. Fitz then walks up to Aria and is just like, hey, Aria, you should come to Hollis. It would be great for you when you graduate. Ha 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 ha.
You'll find that the teachers are very hands-on.
Hands-on, yeah. Oh, thank you.
My skin wanted to like come off.
Oh my God. She then goes outside and he follows her and is like, hey, what's wrong? I thought we were having fun in there. Aria's like, I'm worried about...
You're a horrible writer.
I've been bottling it in from the season 1.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, it's Aria's like, I'm worried about us. Outside forces are taking over. Fitz is like, Jackie is not a threat. No need to worry about that. She's whatever. I may not have told you that she was working this college fair, and not reading into that may also be playing into why you're upset. He doesn't say that. That's me. Aria says, we left ourselves open to that because people don't know that we're in a relationship. Fitz says, well, we did this for a reason. And Aria's like, well, that didn't stop me from kissing Jason. And Fitz is like, and Aria is like, well, what happened? And Jackie then approaches and is like, hey, Ezra, can you go get things from the car? And it leaves. And then Jackie smiles at Aria and waits until he leaves and then goes, Aria, college will be good for you because you'll grow up and you'll like look back and see how naive you were. And smiles and leaves. And I go, fuck yes.
I refer to this in my notes as her run, kid, run. Hey, kid, run speech.
I was not expecting this. I hope, again, that the monkey paw does not curl on this one as well. But Jackie being like, you need to get out of this situation. Politely. I don't know you. But here's a word of advice. Is fantastic. Thank you, Pretty Little Liars. Hannah and Mona are at the dress try-on. Mona's just like, oh my God, who picked these dresses? This is horrible. And Hannah's like, well, it's just a different style. And like Mona's like, no, like these look bad. And it's just like, Hannah's like, well, it wasn't. Like, I'm trying to, like, this is important to my dad. I wasn't great to Isabel and her daughter Kate, like, when we first met, so I want to try. Mona then trash talks Isabel and her daughter Kate loudly as Kate walks in. Mona then notices her purse and is excited about it. It's like, hey, I know that. That's so cool. You have that. I obviously didn't write it down.
You didn't write down the brand.
Flew over my head. Kate then mentions she's there because I already took my AP test and I'm all done. What about you, Hannah? Do you have the day off? And Hannah's like, well, no, it's college fair day. And I'm gonna pick my college the same way that I do my clothes out of a catalog. Silence from Kate. Kate then invites them to food and Mona agrees. As Kate leaves, Hannah's mad, is like, are you crazy? Why would we want to go to food with her? And Mona's like, well, here's your chance to get closer. Emily's then at the spa looking uncomfortable, kind of in a robe, talking to the massage therapist. And the therapist asks if it's her first time. And Emily says yes. And she's like, no need to worry. Everything's going to be fine. You'll love it. Spencer is on a warpath to find out what the NAT club is. Toby jokes that he's like, how do you politely say your girlfriend is obsessive? Spencer then finds a shirt that says nos ad, I don't know Latin, so forgive my pronunciation. Nos animadverto totus. Toby says, hey, you took Latin, didn't you? Shouldn't you know this? And Spencer's like, yes, I got a 5 on the AP test, but it doesn't mean I remember anything. Most relatable thing Spencer said.
Me too.
No,
I didn't take Latin, but...
Yeah, exactly. But the forgetting everything you learned in school immediately when you're done with tests. Mm-hmm. She searches on Bing, and it translates to we see all. Spencer says that Ian recorded things. Maybe Garrett and Jason were in on it. Toby says, well, what does that mean other than they were perverts?
To which we had a good chuckle.
It's really funny.
It's delivered so funny, too.
Yeah, it's just so flat of just what does that mean?
Other than they're perverts.
Uh-huh. Spencer then says Jason has the same motivation then for killing Allie to get the tapes. Aria is at the grill, texting Fitz to text her back as Jason comes up asking if he can sit down with her. Mona and Hannah.
Look, he learned to ask.
I know. Good. May I sit down? Sits down. Well, he has to learn to wait for the answer, actually.
That's true.
Mona and Hannah are in riding clothes outside a nice stable. Hannah is mad at this, and Mona's like, well, how was I supposed to know we'd get invited to ride horses? Kate then approaches with 2 other girls and horses for them, and Mona talks to one of the, oh, your name's Margot in French, and starts speaking to her in French, and they get along nicely. Mona tries to kind of impress them, talks about I used to ride for blah, blah, blah. I went to camp, and Hannah is just kind of falling flat, doesn't fit in. Hannah then has a hard time getting on the horse, and Kate is like, oh, we can totally do this another time. And Mona's like, no worries, she's fine. We'll just catch up to you. We then cut to a scene real quickly of Emily at her massage. Jason shows Aria the framed photos, of Aria's face. Aria's like, wow, these are beautiful. I don't care how well they look. You took pictures of me while I was asleep.
Well,
but he didn't.
He didn't.
Still, I would still feel weird. It'd be like, you don't need to package that up in a frame.
Yeah.
You don't need to go through the expense. She's like, I didn't remember Alison taking photos before. Arias then says, hey, my friends broke in because they've been through a lot. Jason's like, we're all looking for answers. And that's how I found these rolls of film. I pulled up floorboards during the renovation and found this in a box. Aria asks, what else was in the box? Jason says, girl stuff. Aria asks, why hide it? Jason says, sometimes we do things and they just become second nature, like Allie lying. Jason invites her to come to the house and see the box. Aria grimaces, and Jason says, or you can wait until the next person you know breaks into my house.
One of your friends or your family.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Spencer and Toby walk home with food, and Spencer sees Jason and Aria. Toby says, hey, we should go in and talk to her about all this. Spencer says, I already told her everything I think about Jason, but I know who she'll listen to. Mona and I mean, I love it. It's a bad move, but it's Mona and Hannah hike through the forest. Turns out they lost their horses. And Mona cops to never be going to riding camp before. Hannah is pissed off, and Mona's just like, "Why are you so mad? I'm only here because of you." And Hannah says, like, "Me? Just for me or yourself? You wanted in with them when you found out they were all these country club peoples." Mona says, like, "You're such a grouch. I hope Caleb comes back because ever since he left, you've been a crank." Emily's therapist then comes back in saying, "Okay, are you ready to begin?" Emily is then confused and says, "No, like, weren't you just in here? I was just like getting a massage." And the therapist says, "No." Emily then freaks out and says, "Someone was definitely in here." And then sees an A written on her water glass in the outside, on like the dew on the outside of the glass. And I forgot to mention in the other one, just to come back around, um, you really get a glimpse that the other person was like giving her a glute massage. You don't see it, but
I
it
didn't
cuts to her.
really.
It cuts to her legs and it cuts to her upper body, and they're
Mhm.
both not being touched.
That's fair. Yeah, I didn't really. I never put that together because
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
it's odd. The whole thing is bad.
it's really bad. Fitz gets in his car. As Spencer jumps in. Fitz is very confused, and Spencer's like, "Hey, Ezra, I need to talk to you." And he's just like, and she's like, "Mr. Fitz." And he's like, "I think that's better. You're dating your friend." Spencer says she knows about him and Aria, and is like, "And Aria's in danger." Camera then pans to Ella leaving the school and sees Spencer and Fitz in the car together. Emily goes to call Dr. Sullivan, but then gets a text from A. "See how easy it is for me to get my hands around your neck?" Jason and Aria then arrive at the DeLaurentis' house. Jason says, "The box is actually in like the shed back here if you want to come with me." Aria stops and she's like, "I'll just wait here for you to come back." And he's like, "Okay, I'll be right back." Hannah and Mona arrive back at the stable. They go inside to like take off all the riding gear, and Hannah apologizes for being jealous. She's just like, "Kate and her friends think I'm totally clueless and they hate me." Mona says, "Maybe you're not trying hard enough." Mona. "Maybe you're not trying hard enough." Hannah gets mad and vents about how Isabel ruined her life by like when she like, slept with his dad, and now I'm stuck with Kate and all her friends. Mona notices that the intercom is turned on and Kate and all her friends heard. Hannah then runs outside, but Kate and her friends all leave as Kate is upset. Spencer walks downstairs to see Jenna is in her living room. Jenna is like, "Your mom let me in." And she's like, "Spencer, I thought we had an agreement, but you don't seem to care anymore." Jenna's like, "You're still dicking." And Spencer says, like, "Yes, like, I got it." Jenna says, "I know Toby's helping you and you need to stop. It's dangerous for you and Toby." Spencer says, "You don't expect me to believe you care for Toby." And Jenna's like, "I do." Remember that? Spencer says, "I know all about that, remember?" And Jenna says, "I guess that's all. I said all I have to say," and goes to leave. And as Spencer lets her out, she says, "Hey, tell Garrett I said hi."
Aha.
Good stuff. Aria waits outside of Jason's house as Fitz pulls up. He says, how'd you know where he lived? So he says, "Spencer talked to me and that she thinks Jason is dangerous." Aria's like, "You don't have to worry about him. He's not a threat." And Fitz says, "He is to me and I don't want to lose you. We started out keeping a secret so we could have a relationship, but if we need to reveal it, let's do it. We can even start with your parents." Aria says, "What? My parents? Like, are you serious?" And he's like, "Yes, I'd rather they heard it from us." Jason then comes back with the box and Aria goes to grab it. Jason gives it to her and she says thanks. Aria goes to give like an explanation and Jason just goes, "I know, you're unavailable." He stares them down as they leave. Fitz and Aria.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett sits in his car as Jenna comes in and says, "They know about us. They're looking at yearbooks and it's only a matter of time before they figure it out if they haven't already." Garrett asks what she wants him to do and she says, "It's time to talk to Jason." Hannah then comes home and eats some pudding. Ashley comes home and asks Hannah if her dad called. Hannah is like, No, he didn't. Bridesmaid's dress, like try on, like it wasn't a great fit. The phone then rings and Ashley answers the phone, and it turns out it's Tom. Ashley's like, "Oh, well, I'm glad to hear it went so well. Okay, in 1 minute." And is like, "Hey, Hannah, Kate wants to talk to you." Hands the phone to Hannah, and Hannah says, "Oh, great. Thank you for not saying anything like your dad and blah blah blah." And Kate says,
To
"It's
her
o-
dad.
to her, right to my dad."
Yeah.
Kate then says, "It's okay. You're family now." And training a horse, you really have to break its will until it bows to you. That's how you're gonna feel, Hannah, when I'm done with you. Welcome to the family, sis. Hangs up the phone. Who cares? Aria looks through the box.
Amen.
Yeah. Aria looks through the box. And there's girl stuff. There's a doll and lots of little knickknacks. Ella comes into her room, and Ella mentions that Dr. Sullivan suggested someone for Mike to see. And Ella's like, "Hey, like, Aria, did you like seeing someone? You did, didn't you?" Aria's like, "Well, I didn't like not choosing to go, but eventually I grew to like going." Ella says, like, "Can you help, like, talk to Mike about that?" And Aria's like, "Yeah, I'm happy to." I was like, "Okay, thank you." And then, just like Columbo, one more thing. She's like, there were some rumors earlier this year about Fitz being involved with a student, and I just assumed it was just harmless gossip, but maybe I shouldn't have, and like maybe I shouldn't have assumed it wasn't true. Ella asks if there's something that Arya wants to tell her about Fitz and Spencer being involved. Arya then laughs and is like, "Why would you think that?" Ella's like, "I saw them in his car together." Arya's like, "Well, like they aren't doing anything, but would it be so bad? You even said there wasn't like much of an age gap." And Ella's like, "Well, that doesn't matter. He was her teacher. I'd be really disappointed if he abused his power like that." Arya then gets kind of weird and it's like, Don't worry, he's not with Spencer." And Ella goes to leave and says, I take that back. I'd feel more than disappointed. I'd feel betrayed." Emily, Hannah, and Spencer catch up with Emily on her trauma. Emily says, um, like, just how like gross she feels, and they ask more about like the hands, and Emily says she thinks that the hands felt like girls, but she doesn't know. They discuss how they have no idea who A is. Spencer asks, "What if we're going about this all wrong? What if A is a group of people all playing for the same team? Or maybe a club?" Or, sorry. She says, "All staying for the same team." And then Emily says, "Or like a club." And then the doorbell rings. Spencer's like, "Okay, that's Aria. I need to talk. It's probably Aria. I need to talk to her. Like, be right back." Emily then sees a call from Dr. Sullivan, but denies it. And Hannah kind of looks at her like, a little sad, but comfortingly. Arya comes in and Spencer starts to apologize about things. And Arya's like, "Hey, I'm not mad." Spencer says, "Oh, good. I did it because I was so nervous about you because you were so tiny and I was worried." Arya's like, "It's okay. Fitz stepped up and now my mom just thinks you're the one hooking up with him." Jason sits on his porch as Garrett pulls up with beer. Jason's like, "I was wondering how long it'd be before you showed." Garrett says, "Hey, all roads seem to lean back to this house." He then offers Jason a beer, and Jason like looks at him like, "Really?" And Garrett's like, "Oh, right. Totally forgot." Jason asks what's on his mind, and Garrett says, "I just want to make sure we're still cool." Jason's like, "It doesn't matter anymore. It's over." Garrett says, "No, it's not over because I'm a cop now. It matters more than ever." Good stuff. We get a first person POV as Dr. Sullivan enters her office and mentions, "Oh, I don't know if this is going to come back up, but I mention it." She's like, "Oh, it's a little colder in here. That's like so weird. Let me put on a jacket," puts on a jacket, and then sits down and goes, "Okay, what would you like to talk about?"
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, so how did A get all those A's in the cereal box?
I know how many. I'm imagining that A's like layer is just full of empty alphabets boxes, like just like surrounding her.
Do
I'll say
Apple
her,
Jacks
them.
have A's?
I don't think Apple Jacks had letters.
Okay. What do Apple Jacks look like?
I don't know. I never had Apple Jacks.
Me neither.
Huh? Why are you thinking about Apple Jacks?
This is breakfast cereal.
Just in general, you're thinking of.
Yeah, it starts with an A.
Yeah. Okay.
That was just where I went with it.
Okay. Right.
I was just like, I don't know. That's just where what.
I think
Wasn't Frosted Flakes in there?
right. Alphabets. I definitely had alphabets.
I never had alphabets.
Oh yeah. I mean, Apple Jacks are apparently O's.
Oh.
But alphabets are fun because it's like, ooh, I can spell something in my cereal. A lot of vowels. If I remember correctly.
Unlike when you're playing Wheel of Fortune, you don't have to buy them.
Right. Thank you, everybody.
I was just bringing it up.
Mhm.
No, you didn't have to be mean about it.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I'll just be self-conscious about it later.
Okay.
So that, and then also, so A really upped the antics.
Mhm.
We have infiltrated the cereal,
Yes. Found a supply.
and we have broken into your massage room.
Yeah.
Don't love that plot point.
I don't know if you want to talk about that now or later.
Sure.
Yeah. With that scene, it really crystallized for me with Emily, like a lot of the qualms I have about like A stuff with her. It's all about her body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really gross already. In comparison to everybody else too. And on top of it, it's the only queer character.
Mm-hmm.
So like we get the only queer character his body being exploited.
Mm-hmm.
And in a like she gets assaulted in this like episode. Like that's such a big line to cross. And I don't like also that they play with that in this episode title too, where it's like, again, this I think when you go back, you say different time. I think definitely for this for sure. It, it's even kind of grosser in hindsight, but also especially all the things that have come up around like people exploiting in one way or another the like massage or like therapy, like that type of thing. Because I like massage is great and it's very good for people, and like there's a reason that they have agreements of like a specific consent from the therapist and the person, like to give that back and forth very clear. Because on the one hand, what I immediately thought of is like all the gross things we heard about. This is all stuff that happens way after the show, but all the things that come out about like Nassar, and how like that was in like that type of,
it was
like,
in a medical
rehab.
Well, no, he was a
massage.
doctor,
Right.
so it was definitely more of like it was even worse in the sense that it was like medical professional.
Right. And then on the flip side, all the men that we've gotten about exploiting massage therapy, like Deshaun Watson, who is still able to play in the NFL and I think he settled 20 civil suits with massage therapists. And then also Antonio Brown, I think, also had some including there. So it's really even worse in hindsight with all that kind of stuff. And it's gross.
It's gross.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. And especially that we're exploiting Emily's body is, yeah.
It's not good. No, it's not something I enjoy.
Yeah, very uncritically too, because there's, as just like that, it is this thing of like getting one over on them, like look at how close I can get to you, not that like the violation that carries. We just get that like she's like shaken up about it, which of course, but not like what a huge thing. And it
it is a little when they talk about the shower, like she's like, I need to shower like a billion times,
right,
to like feel clean. Like there's like but it's not explicit. Like nothing is explicitly stated.
Yeah, exactly. And not that I think you can talk about like sexual assault and things like that in shows. It's not it's not a favorite plot line, but I think there are ways that you can do that. We went through an entire show before this where they should have steered away from it completely. And so like that's where I always like I come down on this too. It's just like this didn't need to be there.
Nope.
There could have been something else.
Totally. Will Emily talk to Dr. Sullivan?
I think so. I was almost not. I guess I would think that Emily is going to talk to Dr. Sullivan.
Okay.
But I don't know who that person was at the end. I don't know if that would quite be A, or if that's like Jenna potentially. That was the other person that came to mind, just because Jenna is the one out of our other nebulous people that seems to have a hard time dealing with these types of things, and so would potentially go consult someone. And we could be seeing that as a a way to throw us off.
Totally. No, I like that. Did Allie actually take those photos of Aria?
It's hard to believe because we've literally never seen Allie take like photos.
Well, neither did Aria. Aria
Right.
says that.
And Aria is obviously sleeping in those photos, but like they are well composed and things. So, and then this, as we are connected to this NAT club, we see everything. It's more than just a pervert club. Toby says, but is that a part of it? Of like, I don't know if it's gonna be like a. My best bet is that it's this like it's this way of talking about how these kids have access to other people, that these boys had power over them by being able to watch them and like capture them in like their vulnerable moments.
But entire role of Aria,
right? I think there's also like probably partially an obsessiveness to it, and maybe that's where we get like some cracks in Jason on being like that he is a little bit more on the obsessive side in terms of like dangerously obsessive with this girl. So that's probably maybe my best bet is that it was in fact Jason that took those photos, because we've seen nothing related to Allie doing that. Although I don't want that for Jason.
Do you trust Jason?
For the most part, yeah. I actually do. I think
Sounds like I'm interrogating you.
Right.
Like, do you trust Jason?
Well, we were talking to your friend Jason beforehand. He gave you up. But I think he again, he's not quite telling Aria the like entire explicit truth about like what he's trying to do, what his goals are, what he knows. But like he is, because he's not telling Aria about his connection to Garrett and Jenna. But I do think he is on the net good path of trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
So
or what the hell happened. So
I like it. Okay, so you already explained what you think the NAT club is too for me then.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming, is that these boys had this they sought power over people through like watching and observing them and being like, we see all, we know all. And so like by collecting like them in their like vulnerable moments, it's like this invasiveness and this power over people within their neighborhood.
Access.
Yeah. Through the lens of watching their lives.
Why did he give Aria Ali's box? Like just because he was like, oh, we don't want it?
I think that's like trust. He's like trying to build trust.
Do you think there's anything important in that box?
Not anymore.
I think Jason would have taken it out.
Totally. Like he could have been like those rolls of like film could have actually been found there that she took from him potentially, or from Ian. Those could have been Ian's even, but like him, like where he's like, oh, I was renovating the house. Like he's still looking for something.
Because she had all the hiding spots.
Right.
Okay, so then let's talk quickly about Kate. Why?
Yeah.
Why is Kate a menace? Did we need another menace?
No, we did not.
Is she even a good menace?
No, she's so disconnected from everything else. That it's just like, this is so boring. Like, why care? Why do I care?
Yeah.
That's another thing with like the Hannah thing. Is just like, well, we're sticking her in a plot that can't affect anything else with like the Kate stuff. So it's like, why do I care? So it's we don't need her. And then also it's doing this thing where it's playing at Hannah's insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
but then it turns out that they're all founded.
Uh-huh.
That it's just like, I'm not smart, I'm not that, but it like I am, and like that Hannah is quote unquote like, it seems like some of the stuff is just like Hannah's ditzy or doesn't understand things,
The
but
blonde character.
right, but I feel like it's a little missing for the tree for the woods with like Hannah, because like Hannah isn't ditzy and isn't dumb, she just doesn't give a shit.
Uh-huh.
So like Hannah, we from all we like understand is that like we don't get any indication that Hannah couldn't go to college, is that she like doesn't prioritize college.
Mm-hmm.
She is not like the ditzy blonde character because she
Mhm.
like understands way more.
Uh-huh.
She's just like, when she's not paying attention, she's not paying attention, and if it's just not something she doesn't care about, like who cares? And she just
Okay.
doesn't care about the same things.
As I once yelled in a Chili's when we were watching football. Oh, who
Who
cares?
Mhm. So it's just like
Invite me to your Super Bowl
Bowl
party. I can ruin the vibe. Love it. Okay. Cool. What about the whole Mona Kate? Do we think anything's gonna come
Oh.
from that?
I don't think any more after this episode, but Hannah was definitely in the right to be mad at Mona. Mona was definitely being like, "Oh, like yeah, we need to like get along with you."
Mhm.
And it's just like, you didn't need to apologize at the end. Like she was totally doing that. She was totally doing everything that you're blaming her for. Of being like trying to like suck up to him. She lied about
gatekeep Mona.
exactly. She just lied about writing.
Uh-huh. Jackie's Hey Kid Run speech.
Fantastic. I'm glad we got it.
Yeah.
So at least like,
What will come from this?
I don't.
Do you think she'll tell Aria's dad?
Potentially. I think we are eventually gonna get the thing of like, Fitz, you need to like knock this off, or else like I'm gonna like tell someone.
Uh-huh.
Byron. And that's gonna like put him back into a corner. I thought it would be less, it still could not be, of like less of the I'm trying to protect this girl. I hope we continue to get that, because I like it how it's portrayed so far, that she is just like, this is completely inappropriate, and like I need to like help protect her because this isn't right. So I hope we continue to get that.
Uh-huh.
I'm just gonna say that. Yeah, just with the information we have right now, I'm gonna say that that's what I'd like it. That's what I think it's gonna be. And because I think it explicitly, like I said, it's very good at being like, you don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, you're too in it to see what this is from the outside.
Right. And I think it's a little bit of the show having it both ways, of like, having their cake and eating it too, but I'll accept it.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't absolve the show, but I like
No.
that scene.
Yes. Will Aria tell her parents about Ezra after her mom's speech?
No.
Okay. And then
No.
will anything come from her mom Ella thinking that Spencer and Ezra are hooking
I
up?
think we're just gonna get some fun scenes of Ella being like, Spencer, are you all right? I don't think it's gonna be any like big plot things. I think it's gonna be like some good some good comedy of being like, you can tell me.
I like it. Okay, and then what do we think is going to come from the Jenna Spencer standoff? Because Spencer, she game, set, and match.
Totally.
As Mario Tennis taught me.
Game, set, and match.
Anything to come from that?
I don't think any direct action. I mean, obviously they're going to continue butting heads, but I don't think there's going to be any direct result coming from there, because I think we kind of get that with Jenna being like, we like Garrett. They know. They know.
They know.
Whoa. And like that being put into action, but I don't know if there's going to be any follow up to that directly. But I did think that Garrett and Jason scene is really good. Of Garrett being, this is the first time we've seen Garrett be like threatening in just being like really threatening, other than being like ominous, where he's like playing on Jason's like trauma, like of like bringing the beer to him and like showing it off in front of him and being like, hey, like I want to make sure that you don't talk because I'm a cop now. Waving that in his face. Love that.
Okay, and then are you ready to give us your A theories and your murder theories?
Yes, I will say there's not too much change from last week, but we can step into... Theory Corner. Brenton's Theory Corner, where we discuss theories and...
We sit in the corner.
That's right. Oh, there's no chair in the corner in this one. I guess we can get that desk in the upper right, maybe.
I'm just going to climb on top of the filing cabinet.
I mean, that just because this is like video game asset, that just immediately makes me think of like first person games where it's like, I'm going to try and jump on this thing. What happens when I jump on the table?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Me.
So there's nothing too big because we don't get like too many new breadcrumbs and things. But again, I still think that Jason is Black Hoodie, not A. We'll still have Melissa top of that chart. She's been out. And so having Melissa be out is an easy way for it's like, oh, well, what has she been doing off screen? So that's
what
like,
has she been doing in Philadelphia?
Exactly. It potentially like not being in Philadelphia and running all kinds of psychological shit. Let's see some other runner-up theories. Fitz always, in the running because we don't really know him, and I feel like men especially, I kind of pick up on afterwards of like, I like threw the hat. It's like maybe Caleb.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb exiting could totally do that. I was like trying to remember like guys before this. I still think Noel is a menace, but not A. Just kind of being a shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be really mad because I was like, oh right, Lucas exists. I'll be really mad if it is just Lucas.
Because we get so little of him.
Right, and it would be the Revenge of the Nerd.
Mm-hmm.
If that sense. So it'd be like, it would remind me too much of the weird beaver speech at the end of Veronica Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And then is there anybody else? I've lost my other theory here. But I still think Melissa is probably my number one runner at the moment to be A.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get too many glimpses of other people pulling other shit for them to be A.
Okay.
We see a little bit too much of Garrett and Jenna for one of them to be A. So I'm poking at the people that we know very little about until the show wants to like
give you more.
Yeah, exactly. Dump some stuff on it. So we're gonna go with Melissa right now because she's the most tangentially related of being something happened that night that like she was in observance or at least in party 2 with whatever Jason did, with whatever Garrett and Jenna saw or like were also involved in, and then whatever needed to have Jason's stuff get covered up with, which I still think Mrs. De Laurentiis went to Peter Hastings to then bury the stick to help save Jason.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for me then.
Let's exit Theory Corner.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No. I like this other episode more, even if it had really rough stuff with Emily.
Because it had horses.
Hey.
Really? Really? You go dead silent at my Val joke and you yell hey when I talk about horses.
What can I say? I'm on a roll tonight.
Oh no.
All right. But the Aria and Fitz thing getting back together is just like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
Can you continue this going?
Sunset.
And I still think Jason's gonna be like, hey, I'm just coming around as a friend, and that's gonna cause strife. And then I like more Garrett and Jenna. Let's get more scenes. Love that stuff. Also like Spencer and Jenna's face off. Love that. But we also get such fleeting glimpses of Spencer and Toby doing things, you know? Yeah, it was a more interesting episode for sure. Even if with my qualms, I would be down on this week overall, pretty much. I think it wasn't my favorite couple episodes.
No, and I know not next week, but episode 13 of season 2. So that would be in 2 weeks. We'll have a Halloween episode. We'll have our first
exciting.
Halloween episode. I was looking that up to see when it was. It's episode 13 of the season. So, oh no, wait, yeah, no, we just did 10. So we'll have 11, 12, and then 13 will be the next one.
Yeah, 9, 10.
Mm-hmm. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
What are you gonna wear your Halloween costume?
Sure. I gotta think of what I gotta wear.
What would you have worn for Halloween in 2011?
Oh, I was always really bad at Halloween costumes. So
Yeah, I think I had to dress up for like 4 different days because like Halloween and IV was.
that was sophomore year. I was I actually did kind of dress up that year a little bit. I completely forget the character's name. Luke Wilson in Royal Tenenbaums. I'll pull up a little.
I dressed up as a cowgirl because I was from the Central Valley, so that was easy. I already had the stuff, and I dressed up as I think like a pirate. God knows, I had lots of costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see, with the headband,
Right, and the little suit jacket and the
little wristbands.
Right.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean,
Richie Tenenbaum. Thank you.
maybe we'll don Halloween costumes. Maybe we won't. Who's to say?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe once you see the episode, you'll be inspired by their outfit.
Oh, perfect. Feel free also to dress up as well.
Yeah,
You at home.
Why not? Halloween in July, whenever you want it.
That's right.
Awesome. Should we do plugs then?
Yeah, let's do it.
When I'm not here doing this, sometimes I'm doing other things. You can find me at butreallythough.com. Though is spelled THO. Everything will be linked in my link tree. I do life and career coaching. I post blog posts sometimes, once in a rare time when I have energy. I post TikToks. I exist on the internet, and yeah, find me.
You can find the video version of this podcast at Dead Ends on YouTube. You can find the audio version of this podcast on all your podcast platforms of choice. We appreciate any likes, subscriptions, shares. We are a small podcast and we don't do any advertising. So word of mouth is little. Great. Exactly.
We're so little.
Rate and review us. I think supposedly iTunes is the one helps the most, but whatever podcast platform.
Wherever you are.
Yeah. We appreciate any help. And you can also send in any of your questions to deadendspcast@gmail.com. That is listed in all the episode descriptions and on our about pages. You can also find us doing Let's Plays over at Burger Discourse or at Burger Discourse on YouTube. We've taken a bit of hiatus as we've been low on energy, but we'll be getting back to Rechain of Memories.
It's the worst Kingdom Hearts game I've ever played.
It's special.
Watch us struggle.
For sure.
Suffering.
So much. And I at some point will write a new blog and I will keep plugging it until I get myself to, and then I will continue to plug it anyway. Because then I want you to read it.
Well, you
I don't
got
know
old
what that
blogs
statement
on there.
means, but yes, I do.
You're trying to hold yourself accountable publicly.
That's right.
That's a good accountability tool.
Yeah.
But you're also belittling yourself.
But then I was also like, wait a minute, but even if I start writing again, I'm gonna want to plug it again.
Mm-hmm.
So burgerdiscourse.com.
All right.
So what is it?
We're here.
We're here. We're gonna find out everything. We see everything.
You see nothing.
I see nothing.
You know nothing.
No.